So the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP, is a program of federally funded transportation planning activities to be undertaken by GTC staff, its member agencies, and other jurisdictions in the 9-county Genesee Finger Lakes region. So the fiscal year 2022-2023 UPWP will support all these planning activities starting on April 1st of this year, 2022, and ending on March 31st of 2023. So we follow the federal fiscal year. So projects in the current UPWP that are not complete as of March 2022 will be rolled over into the new UPWP. So we started by soliciting proposals on September 10th. The deadline for applications was October 15th. Again, GTC emphasized that the UPWP supports planning partnerships between GTC and our local communities. Staff worked with the UPWP Development Committee, otherwise known as the UDC, consisting of representatives from member agencies from the MPA to prioritize these project proposals. So during the UPWP development process, when we were reviewing the applications that came in, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, was signed into law on November 15th. And more recently, our partners at USDOT are referring to the IIJA as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or the BIL. Just a quick note, we will be updating the draft UPWP to kind of reflect this name change. So in total, we received 16 applications requesting just under $1 million in funding. And in absence of the funding estimates prior to the BIL being signed, we used flatline projections from last year. So initially, we only thought we'd make about $750,000 available for new projects. On November 16th, we received our call letter from NISTOT main office. This took into account a very significant increase in FHWA metropolitan planning funds as a result of the BIL being signed. So this increased our funding amount by over $500,000. So this gave us a lot of new opportunities and also set down some new requirements. And we worked with the UDC to identify 3 additional tasks that were not initially proposed in the 16 original applications. So next slide, Alex. So I'm just going to briefly touch on each new task as it's incorporated into the UPWP. The first being the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act Implementation Program Reserve. We put the bulk of the extra funding in this task for now. This will allow GTC staff and our member agencies to really proactively respond to the IIJA or BIL rulemaking as it rolls out without having to wait for the next UPWP, which would take into effect April of 2023. Next up is the new task is the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Resiliency Plan. The new law establishes the Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation, or the PROTECT program. And this is meant to implement resiliency-related projects. So if an MPO develops a resiliency plan with prioritized improvements, the federal share on these projects will rise from the typical 80% to 87%. However, if you incorporate this resiliency plan into your long-range plan, the federal share on these resiliency-related projects increases to 90%. We already have our vulnerability assessment in place. We really feel that once we get guidance on what makes a compliant resiliency plan, building on past efforts, looking at our infrastructure vulnerability, GTC staff will be able to develop a plan and incorporate it into the long-range plan quickly. And this will allow all our member agencies and project sponsors to benefit from that 90% federal share. So next slide, Alex. The final new task related to the new bill is the Complete Streets program. So the new law for the first time ever requires a set aside. So MPOs are required to spend at least 2.5% in FHWA metropolitan planning funds on complete streets activities. Again, we don't have the rulemaking yet, but this will allow us to meet those new requirements rather quickly. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so the UDC met in November and December. The efforts of the UDC resulted in the project list that was provided in your meeting package as shown on the screen. On the next 2 slides highlight the new projects that were funded, and we also sent out the full draft UPWP document, and this is available on the website. So for the second year in a row, GTC staff is also offering technical assistance to address project needs in lieu of a full planning study. So this has resulted in a new task, task 5301, staff technical assistance. We envision providing a greater amount of the staff technical assistance on an annual basis. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on these new projects. So next slide. Okay, so the UDC met in November and December. The efforts of the UDC resulted in the project list that was provided in your meeting package as shown on the screen. On the next two slides highlight the new projects that were funded, and we also sent out the full draft UPWP document, and this is available on the website. So for the second year in a row, GCC staff is also offering technical assistance to address project needs in lieu of a full planning study. So this has resulted in a new task, task 5301, staff technical assistance. We envision providing a greater amount of the staff technical assistance on an annual basis. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on these new projects. So next slide. Okay, so the public review. So all UPWP applicants have received an email notifying them of the UDC's decision regarding their application and information about our public review process. So upon the Planning Committee's approval today, the public review document, which is that draft project list, and the full complete UPWP will be presented for a 30-day public review to commence on Monday, January 10th and end on Tuesday, February 8th. Again, we will be conducting this public review process virtually using the publicinput.com platform. Any comments received will be shared for your consideration at the February 10th Planning Committee meeting, and the GTC board is expected to adopt the final UPWP at the February 24th meeting. It can be transmitted to NISDOT, Federal Highways, and FTA ahead of their March 31st deadline. Again, the new UPWP goes into effect April 1st of 2022. And with that, I'd also like to give a big thank you to the members of the UDC. I know it takes a lot of time to review the proposals. To me, we meet a lot to try to figure out what projects to fund. So I just want to thank all of them for their participation in the process. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Any questions of Jody?